Juliana and Lionel Yasher Koach, you've given us each a gift. With each of these, you've each given us so many gifts, actually, with each of these readings. Such true and enduring messages that resonate this week of all weeks. Juliana, the importance of your words is not lost on anyone in this room right now. Teaching that women must be able to control their own destinies, bodies, and lives, finding whatever bit of Torah we can to demonstrate that essential truth of our time. And as we witness the loss this week of an extraordinary female candidate seeking the White House, your words and your voice remind us that there is a whole long future ahead, and there are reasons to believe that we one day will get there. But even before that sacred moment comes, as you taught us, we can draw strength from the heroines of the Torah and of Jewish history, following their examples in the fight for justice. And Lionel, you approach those very same verses of Torah with a really different interpretation, and so much brilliant exploration of what our tradition has to say about truth, landing with your truth, that people should be able to do whatever they want as long as it doesn't negatively affect those around them. Ken yehi ratzon, may this be so. And also, as you said, that the person who usually suffers the most is the person who lies. From your mouth to God's ears. Friends, if you walk away this morning with nothing other than hearing the wise words of these two young women, dayenu. Each of these Benot Mitzvah gave us reasons to have hope this morning about the rising generation and so much light that they will bring in the years ahead. You will note that each of them also did, in fact, look at the very same verses of Torah and came away with radically different readings, expanding ancient words into timeless lessons that complement one another, even when they seem so radically different. We recall the famous rabbinic line about diverging interpretations of text. In the words of our rabbis, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim. These and those are the words of the ever-living God. There are endless ways of looking at the very same text, innumerable ways of experiencing the very same reality. As we locate ourselves amidst a fractured country this week, believing that rabbinic maxim might require a little extra effort. Because my guess is that most of us in this room aren't really feeling an Elu ve'elu spirit. Confronting different views that actually do conflict with one another, we might not want to believe that opposing views should be treated equally. And if you cringe at the idea of Elu ve'elu as if it's an affirmation of both sidesism, rest assured. That phrase appears only toward the beginning of the Talmudic text, and we will see where it goes next in just a few moments. Many of us come to this Shabbat feeling fear and disappointment and exhaustion, feeling like this week was a gut punch, wondering how it's possible that so many Americans voted the way they did, angry about why we're here, and uncertain about where we are now going. And maybe some of you are coming out of the election feeling pretty good and hopeful. But not one of us can say today that our society has healed or that we even know how to heal it. That will be the work of many, many years to come. This morning, I won't attempt to give my hot take about what happened or what will happen next, because I think right now we just need to take a beat before figuring all that out. No matter what we feel about this election, that part of this journey is now over. We can unclench our fists, breathe, slow down, and set ourselves up to receive whatever wisdom unfolds in the coming weeks and months. We must believe that that wisdom will come at the proper time, and we have to have faith that however painful the next leg of this journey might feel, that we will be and we will make many blessings along this path. Vayomer Adonai el Avram, and God said to Avram at the beginning of this week's parsha, Lech lecha, me'artzecha, u'mimoladtecha, u'mibeit avicha. Go forth from your land, from your birthplace, and from the house of your father, El Haaretz Asher Areka, to the land that I will show you. Neither he nor Sarai know exactly where they're headed, but they go forth, believing what God says in the next breath, V'heyeh bracha, and you shall be a blessing. Hopefully that comforted them. But the Torah doesn't actually say anything about what it felt like for Avram and Sarai to give in to the not knowing of what their future held in that moment. It's reasonable to guess that they were scared, maybe excited. Maybe they felt different things arguing between them. Maybe they felt relieved that God told them exactly what to do because that's what I want in my life right now. We don't know what they felt. And all the text tells us is, Vayelech Avram ka'asher diber elav Adonai. Avram went forth just as God instructed him. Maimonides offered this reading about what came next. Now that Abraham had been granted perception and knowledge, he began to debate and argue with his neighbors, protesting that they were not following truth, publicizing that there was only one God whom it was appropriate to serve. Once Abraham had opened his eyes, he found a way to talk about the purpose of his journey to people who were not like him. And by some miracle, according to our tradition, he actually succeeded at finding people who wanted to convert to his way of thinking. And the path he walked was difficult. The people he came across, by and large, didn't want to convert and didn't want to agree with him. But his faith in the truth of God guided him, strengthening his steps as he played the long game and figured out how to build. On our journey, we also know truths which will sustain us as we walk. We know that we must always seek the goodness in people created in the image of God. We know that we must care for the stranger, the widow, and the orphan. We know to demand that our leaders eschew corruption, and we know to resist tyrants. These are the truths that appear in our foundational myths as Jews, beginning with this week's call to go forth. And we don't need anyone's permission to live out those values as we walk this path. As we encounter people who are unlike us on this path, there is further wisdom in that notion I started with of Elu ve'elu. When the rabbis tell us that these and those are the words of God, they don't leave it at that. Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai both tell truths, the Talmud explains, but the law is in accordance with only one. In this case, Beit Hillel, because in the debate between them, Beit Hillel was forbearing and gracious, showing restraint when affronted. And when they formulated their teachings, they shared Beit Shammai's statements before their own, in deference to the validity and worth of their adversaries. In other words, our rabbis did not really think that all beliefs are equally justifiable or true. Sometimes there really is a winning truth, they teach us. But as they also insist, we can only win a debate or get our truth across when we fully understand the views of our opponents. And when we find a way of believing that the other side is seeking the truth, even if it feels like they are so far away from telling it. This is the Torah that I'm reminding myself of right now because it feels urgent, but also because it's the Torah that I'm personally finding it hardest to live out. Approaching a different side with forbearance or humility when I am so bereft this week. Caught as we are now, worn out by this fight and exhausted by where this journey has gotten us up till now, we may not be ready to approach perspectives other than our own with that humility or acceptance just yet. But in time, I hope we push ourselves to try. The rabbinic wisdom of Elu ve'elu about these and those being the words of God is a text that I've heard, maybe you've heard, and maybe even taught many times. I thought I knew everything there was to know about it. Until this week, a student pointed out that the end of the text is just as poignant as everything that came before. After teaching of the debate between Hillel and Shammai and the way in which Beit Hillel was rewarded for their deference, the text concludes with a lesson that is perhaps the most relevant of all this week. This is to teach you, the Talmud says, that anyone who humbles themselves, God will lift them up. And anyone who lifts themselves up, God will humble them. This is the way of the world. Anyone who seeks greatness will find that greatness flees from him. But anyone who is patient and yields to the moment will stand by their side, and they will ultimately be successful. Shabbat Shalom.